Welcome to the Old Testament in Super U3. I'm here to help you get to know the Word of God better. We're going to fly through the entire Old Testament. We'll do our best to cover all 39 books. This is an overview of the 39 books of the Old Testament. So today we are looking at the very first book of the Bible, the first book of the Old Testament, Genesis. Genesis, which means beginnings or origin, is the book of origins. It tells the story of beginnings, how God created the heavens and the earth, all living things and all the people groups on earth today. It tells the story of the beginning of humanity. It tells the story of how sin entered the world through Adam and Eve, how death entered the world through Adam, and how God dealt with humanity after they sinned. And it also tells the story of God's promise to redeem the world even though it was cursed because of sin. Genesis is a beautiful book, and it lays the foundation for the rest of the Old Testament. The main character of Genesis is God. You see God in chapter 1 as the creator who speaks things into existence. He spoke light into existence, separated the waters from the land, caused the land to be fruitful, and created man in his own image. God is also seen in chapter 2 as a husbandman who planted a garden and made the first man from the dust of the ground and then took a rib out of that man's side to make a woman for him. And we also see God in chapter 3, walking in the garden in the cool of the day, having a conversation with Adam and Eve. In the beginning, God is presented as a God who is personal, who has a relationship with his creation. But because of the fall of man in chapters 3 and 4, there's a change in tone throughout the rest of the book. The second major character of Genesis is man. Man starts off innocent, made in the image of God, but quickly falls into sin. There's a lot of emphasis on family trees throughout the book of Genesis, especially chapters 5 and 11, where we learn about the line of Seth, the line of Adam and Eve's other sons and daughters. And then eventually we come to Noah, the only righteous man found in the whole world, whose family line continued through his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. We see man living in a fallen state in chapters 6 to 11, engaging in wickedness, violence, deception, idolatry, and murder. Chapter 6 says that the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, which some scholars believe were fallen angels who engaged in immorality with women and produced offspring called the Nephilim. Humans lived in this fallen state until we meet Abraham in Genesis 12. Speaking of Abraham, he's actually the third most important character in the book of Genesis. God calls Abram, who later became Abraham, and promises that through his descendants, all the families of the earth will be blessed. And this blessing is traced through Abraham's son Isaac to Jacob, who later becomes Israel, and finally to the 12 sons of Jacob, who become the 12 tribes of Israel. And remember, the nation of Israel plays a key role in the Old Testament, as do the descendants of Abraham. Now, while the nation of Israel isn't established yet, we do see glimpses of it in Genesis. When God said to Abraham in Genesis 12:3, "I will bless you and make your offspring as numerous as the stars in the sky, and will give you and your offspring all these lands, and will make you a great nation." God makes this same promise to Isaac, Jacob, and finally to the 12 sons of Jacob. So when reading through Genesis, ask yourself, how am I like Adam? How can I follow God like Abraham? And what part of God's plan am I living out right now? Those are some really good questions to consider as you read through the book of Genesis. Well, that's all we have time for today, but we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Old Testament. If you have, then please take a moment to subscribe Super U3 and leave us a review. Also, if you feel led, we encourage you to share the gospel with someone else in your life. Look for opportunities around you to share the love of Jesus with others. And until next time, thanks for watching. God bless you, and remember, never stop believing.